Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here as we explore a topic many of us find challenging, the fear of ending a relationship. We'll be looking into why ending a relationship can be so difficult, even when we know it's time to move on. Over the next few slides, we'll discuss the emotional hurdles, the role of fear, and some strategies to help us navigate this tough but important process. Let's get started. Let's talk about what really holds us back from making those necessary changes in our lives. Often, it's not because we don't understand what needs to be done. No, the real obstacle is a deep-seated fear of what might happen next. This fear can be so powerful that it paralyzes us, preventing us from taking action. One of the most common fears is the fear of causing pain. We worry about hurting someone we care about, and that thought can be overwhelming. The idea of being the source of someone's suffering can make us hesitate or even avoid change altogether. Then there's the fear of facing anger. We often anticipate rage, accusations, or retaliation if we move forward. This anticipation can make us feel trapped, as if confronting these emotions is just too risky. Another significant fear is the fear of emotional chaos. We imagine the unpredictable aftermath of a separation or change, and that uncertainty can be terrifying. The thought of losing emotional stability makes us cling to the status quo. Finally, some of these fears are rooted in childhood. Old psychological patterns can make separation or change feel like a violent disruption, even when logically we know it's necessary. These deep-seated fears often influence us more than we realize, acting as invisible barriers to growth. Understanding these fears is crucial because they are often the core reasons we resist change. Recognizing them allows us to confront and work through them, ultimately helping us move forward. When we think about ending a relationship, it's important to realize that the fear we feel goes far beyond just not wanting to hurt someone or to be alone. It's often deeply connected to feelings of guilt and a sense of responsibility for the other person's well-being. These feelings can make the idea of separation feel incredibly heavy and complicated. What's really interesting is that these emotions are frequently reinforced by long-standing psychological patterns, things we've internalized over many years. These patterns can make us see ending a relationship not just as a difficult choice, but almost as an act of violence, either against ourselves or the other person. That's why it's so important to understand these underlying layers. Recognizing these emotional and psychological barriers helps us develop the courage to move forward, not with guilt or shame, but with honesty and kindness, for ourselves and for the other person. This awareness is key to navigating the end of a relationship in a healthy, compassionate way. Let's talk about the weight of causing pain. One of the biggest reasons people hesitate to end a relationship is the thought of hurting someone else. And I mean, especially when that person has been kind, loyal, and emotionally dependent on us. It can feel like betrayal to even consider breaking up. We often imagine them breaking down into tears, collapsing from grief, drowning in tissues, and maybe even never fully recovering. That's a powerful mental image, and it makes us want to avoid that immediate pain at all costs. So many opt for the easy path, staying in the relationship, even if it means years of quiet resentment and living unfulfilled lives. But here's the ironic part. This choice actually causes more damage in the long run than the short burst of pain that a breakup might bring. It's important to recognize that avoiding pain today often leads to greater suffering down the line, not just for ourselves, but for everyone involved. This ties back to the overall theme that sometimes facing difficult truths is necessary for genuine growth and happiness. Let's talk about the shadow of anger and retaliation. When we're in situations where anger is involved, one of the most common reactions is to experience rage and accusations. We often fear that if we express ourselves, the other person might respond with an explosive, angry outburst. This fear can make us hesitant to speak up or set boundaries. Now, for those of us who grew up in environments where anger was unpredictable or intense, this feeling can be even more overwhelming. It's like a deep, visceral reaction, threatening and almost suffocating. We might feel trapped, unsure of how to handle the situation without risking an emotional or even physical blow. This brings us to what I call primal fear, the unconscious, almost instinctual fear that if we upset someone, especially an angry person, they might actually destroy us. It's a powerful, survival-based response that's rooted in childhood experiences. Rationally, as adults, we know this isn't true. We understand that people can get angry without destroying us. But emotionally, it still feels like a matter of life or death, like those childhood memories of a parent's anger, which felt genuinely dangerous and unpredictable. Understanding this helps us see how deeply these fears are embedded in us. Recognizing that these reactions are often rooted in past experiences is the first step toward managing them. It's about separating our emotional responses from the present reality and learning healthier ways to cope with anger, both our own and others. Let's take a closer look at the childhood roots behind fragile dependencies. First, early conditioning plays a huge role here. Many of the fears we carry into adulthood actually originate from our childhood experiences, often from situations that felt overwhelming or confusing at the time. Next, consider the impact of having a fragile parent, someone who depended on us emotionally in ways that might have felt burdensome or confusing. This creates a sense that we have a responsibility for their well-being, which can be quite heavy for a child. This leads us to an internalized belief, the idea that expressing our needs might break them or cause harm. So, out of a desire to protect those we love, we suppress our own needs. And finally, with that belief, we feel responsible for holding everything together, often silencing ourselves to keep the peace or avoid causing distress. All of these points connect deeply to the overall theme of how childhood experiences shape our adult dependencies, often making us feel fragile or overly responsible. Recognizing these roots is a vital step toward understanding and eventually healing these patterns. When we think about childhood roots and explosive reactions, it's important to consider how our early experiences shape us. Sometimes, our parents responded to frustration with explosive rage, which could leave us feeling terrified of making mistakes or causing upset. Whether we grew up with a fragile dependency on our caregivers or an explosive temper in the household, the key lesson we learned was similar. We internalized that we needed to silence our needs, play small, and avoid upsetting authority figures at all costs. This is a deeply ingrained pattern. As adults, that wiring doesn't just disappear. It carries forward into our relationships. For example, telling a partner, "I want to leave," can trigger the same paralyzing dread we felt as children, fearing to disappoint or upset someone we depend on or fear. Understanding these roots helps us see how these early reactions have shaped our current fears and behaviors, and why they can feel so overwhelming. Recognizing this connection is a crucial step in learning to break free from those old patterns. Let's talk about the illusion of catastrophe. Many of us carry childhood fears that make us believe a breakup will cause irreversible damage, either to ourselves or to our partner. But in reality, adults are more resilient than we often give them credit for. Yes, initial pain is inevitable. There will be tears, anger, and sadness. That's normal and part of the process. But what's important to remember is that over time, that intense pain begins to fade. Time truly heals most wounds. Just like we recover from grief, rejection, or disappointment, we do move forward. And here's a key point. Both parties are more resilient than we imagine. The catastrophe we fear actually happened long ago, in childhood. It's an old fear replaying in our minds, not an accurate reflection of what adult life really looks like. So, understanding this can help us approach breakups with more confidence and less fear. Let's talk about the difference between true kindness and seeming kindness. Seeming kindness often shows up when we stay in a relationship out of guilt, believing that staying is the kind thing to do. But in reality, this usually leads to quiet misery, resentment, and emotional detachment. It's important to recognize that this isn't genuine kindness. It's really just avoidance. True kindness, on the other hand, involves embracing honesty, even when it's difficult. Yes, being honest might cause some temporary pain now, but it ultimately prevents a lifetime of unhappiness later. In fact, True kindness is often the most compassionate act we can offer because it respects both our own well-being and that of others. So staying out of guilt might seem like the kind thing to do in the moment, but it can lead to years of suffering, resentment, or even betrayal. That's not kindness, that's avoidance. True kindness, by contrast, requires honesty and courage, and it's what truly fosters healthy, authentic connections. So here we come to the final point: courage. This is about breaking free from fear, which can often hold us back in ways we don't even realize. The first step is to face the truth, really look at where your fear is coming from. Many times, it's rooted in childhood conditioning, not in the realities of our adult lives. Recognizing this is powerful because it helps us see that the fear isn't always justified or relevant anymore. Next, embracing integrity is crucial. True courage isn't about avoiding conflict or tough conversations. It's about facing them honestly and openly. When we act with integrity, we're staying true to ourselves and our values, which makes us stronger and more resilient. Then there's the importance of enduring short-term pain. Sometimes, making a difficult decision or facing an uncomfortable truth causes temporary discomfort. But in the long run, that pain is far less damaging than staying stuck in unhappiness or avoidance. Finally, allowing full lives means understanding that sometimes the most loving thing we can do, especially in relationships, is to let go. When we release someone we no longer love, we give both ourselves and them the chance to live authentically and fully. And paradoxically, this act of kindness and courage can be the most compassionate thing we do. So remember, real courage is about honesty, resilience, and compassion. It's how we free ourselves to live our best, most authentic lives.